number one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What up, everybody? Welcome to episode 312 of Sports Card Nation. Lauren Rizzo Shaffer is back for part 2 of our great conversation, continuing from last week's episode. And Lauren's a writer for various hobby publications, a collector. She's does shows. She stitches cards. She's just a great person, right? And I think that's the biggest takeaway. And I was glad to finally have her on, and so we get some more Lauren today, and that is a good thing. Just want to say a real quick, some of you reached out. They figured out it was my birthday, probably through Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook or attach to me on Facebook, I didn't really talk about necessarily my birthday, but some of you who happen to know or figured it out, who sent birthday wishes, means a lot to me. I want to say thank you for that. Another year older, I guess it could be worse, but still here, and nothing hobby related to talk about birthday wise. Stayed home, ordered some Italian food for me and the family, and had a great birthday. It was a rainy day, so kind of just stayed inside and ate some food and relaxed, and watched some football as well. It happened to be Sunday, so I got to watch some football, and no Steelers game. They played early in the week, lost to the Browns, so no nerves going, just relaxed and watched all the other teams play. So pretty good birthday, and again, thanks to those who said happy birthday. So appreciate that. So enough about that. Let's get the show going. Quick 30-second break, and then we're back with Lauren Rizzo Shaffer.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Now to the conclusion of our great conversation with Lauren Rizzo Shaffer. I know some of that stuff where card art is involved with that artist having to cut up the cards and whether it be like what you just showed in the shadow box, or just cutting up pieces and making sort of a kaleidoscope design and other designs, if you will. But here's the thing, it's a bad pair. I know people make the parallel to those two things, but when it comes to like card trimming and cut, that's done to dupe somebody.
Exactly.
Like they're not someone that's doing that stuff doesn't want you to know they did that stuff.
Right.
That's the whole end game, is like, I'm going to sell this as it's not altered, and hey, look at it, it's got 4 sharp corners and no white edging, and it's going to grade high, or it did, you fooled a grader in some cases.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Card art is not that. There's no secret. I mean, the secret might be in how the heck did the artist do that. That's amazing. Yeah. But there's no secret. Like, this isn't designed to get graded and go from a 6 to a 9. You know what I mean? That's not the end game there. So I get why some people draw those parallels, but it's you can't, because they're two different animals.
Right.
They're not even the same species. And so
exactly, yeah.
And I think it gives card art a bad rep when it's not even an earned one. Like, if you're gonna get a bad rep, at least they're not trying. Like, this is all up in the, like, this is all 100% transparent. Like, I'm going to look like Tim Carroll, who cuts up real cards and then makes a picture of iconic cards with the cut up card. There's no secret. He's at the National at a table doing it in front of it.
Right.
So, like, and you're right. I think people connect those when there's really no connection. They are two different. One is a completely illegal, immoral act,
right?
A theft in the sense, and the other one's creativity. And if someone wants to pay for that creativity and genius, then It is what it is. They're not. No one's buying. That Shaq you have. You're not sending that to PSA or SGC for grading. They wouldn't grade it in. But even if they did, you know what I mean. That's not necessarily what it's about. So
Right.
I get it. I think you make a great point there, and I think but the point is these are two different things that shouldn't be put into the same box. One is done by a criminal element, and the other is done by a very talented person. And someone might say, "Well, John, that trimmer might be talented. He might be, bank robbers can be talented too and good at their craft. It's still illegal and a crime. So
right, it's still frowned upon though. So
yeah. So to put them in the same categories, not fair to the artists that are doing great work. But it's a great point because I think that's what exactly happens, unfortunately and unfairly. So hopefully that sort of changes and people see for what it really is meant to be, right? And I think most people do. I think most people do, but you have that small segment, right, that just doesn't think about it maybe on that same level. Maybe you and the majority do. I know you mentioned Kayla. I believe the player was Austin Hayes. I could be wrong.
Yes, I blanked on it completely, but yes.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. I just figured I'd throw that in there. Well, I want to segue to women in the hobby. You kind of mentioned that as well. Obviously, you are a woman in the hobby. I've been in the hobby since 1979. I can tell you, as a 7-year-old kid in 1979, it was obviously, heavily, very few women involved in the hobby. When I did my first show as a 15-year-old dealer in 1987, same thing, right? Well, we've got a lot of ways to go. Well, I think the hobby's made strides in this category. We've seen women hold positions of power in the corporate side of the hobby. We're seeing obviously a lot more female collectors, and that is awesome. We're seeing more female dealers, which I think is really super cool. Used to be, I'm going to keep it real. Like it used to be, if you saw a female behind the table, it was someone's wife. Now, these are dealers themselves. They might not even be a husband. This is the, Black Jade Wolf and others. I don't, I'll leave someone out. But we're seeing across the board at all different levels, dealers, collectors, jobs in the hobby, holding very important positions. For me, it's great to see because that's how it should be. The hobby should be about anything should be about diversity, including everyone. But we have a ways to go. I've heard, the bad side of the stories where I've seen it. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen firsthand being set up as a dealer, another dealer. How do I want to besmirch a female collector or assume she didn't know as much because she was female, yet that wasn't the case. I've had that conversation. I don't want to say with a friend, but even just in a dealer acquaintance. And I'm like, you went and assumed, and that's not the case. You can't, and I've had those tough conversations. So while we've made strides, Lauren, I know I'm being a little long-winded here, there's still a ways to go. From your perspective as an actual woman in the hobby, what have, from when you started and today, I'm sure you've seen strides, but kind of talk about even your own personal experiences, if you will, kind of talk about, piggybacking sort of off what I said, what you've seen firsthand, in the trenches, if you will, to be a little dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I would like to say I appreciate that you acknowledge that you witnessed something and you experienced that, through somebody else, because a lot of people, I will say, not to paint with broad strokes, but they don't want to acknowledge that. And I don't want to sit here and be like, boo-hoo, it's so hard for me. But if it wasn't for my husband, I don't know that I would have stayed in this space. If it wasn't for social media, I know I wouldn't have stayed in this space. It's a big part of the hobby, I think, and I don't think anybody would disagree with this, is community. And I think finding a community of women is what made me feel comfortable and able to stay, because there's there's doubts sometimes. I'll just be frank. I have doubts sometimes. Do I know what I'm talking about? Do I belong here? Do I want to even go into this experience, whether it be, trading or my husband, he's a dealer and I go with him. And, I'll be honest. I've had to tell him, like, I'm very happy to be here. If you need to run to the restroom or get a snack, I obviously am happy to be here by myself, but, people will sometimes not talk to me when I'm there by myself. I can greet them or whatever. And I've been
They
flat
make
out.
you. And I'll say what maybe you're. I don't want to say fearful, but you're a little tentative to say, right? You might be viewed as, oh, that's just the dealer's wife.
Yeah.
Right? And you are. I'm not saying that if you
Right.
are,
Exactly.
right? But they think like, oh, she doesn't know anything about the car.
Right.
And it's the same conversation, not the kind of to cut in on here, but it's kind of it's the same conversation I had with the dealer who I was set up next to, who basically belittled might be too strong. I don't think it was that bad, but he basically, without even knowing the young lady, just made the assumption that she didn't know anything because of her,
Right.
race or because she was female. And you
Right.
can't do that. You can't make that assumption just on visuals. And people do that all the time. I'm not, but you can't, or you should definitely try not to. And I saw the kind of the interaction between the two of them. She walked away. I don't think she was feeling pretty good about that interaction, and I knew him enough, Lauren, to say something to him. And I used tact in my conversation to him, and then I'll just give the Cliff Notes version. I basically said, I think you sort of, how come you said this and how come you said that? Well, I didn't think she knew, and I'm like, did you hear what you just said? You didn't think she did,
Right.
meaning she did. And I'm like, you can't, not anymore, and you shouldn't anyway. But especially the hobby is growing, and rightfully so. And I think he learned his lesson between the interaction and my conversation afterwards. And I'm not a gatekeeper per se. I think we're all gatekeepers, right? I don't think you self-appoint yourself. But I was glad I knew him enough, Lauren, that I could have that sort of tough conversation, if you will. And I think between what happened with the conversation with the young lady and my conversation again afterwards, I think he realized sort of the error in his ways. And I so I think when the next time comes, I think he'll, muscle memory, he'll revert back to like, hey, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Or at least I hope so, right?
Right.
And we can learn from our mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully in this case that dealer does. But so I've seen that, I've seen that firsthand, and I felt really bad. I almost wanted to like leave my table and like kind of go up to her and like, hey, I like all dealers are not like that. Yeah, either. Please don't, but I did. So I took my opportunity to sort of direct that at him and sort of a teaching moment, if you will, the professional muscle in as well. But, and maybe prevent that. And I think that's, being proactive, that's where the change will eventually occur. And so for me to like say that doesn't happen when I've seen it firsthand, I know it occurs. And I hate to say it, maybe it's more the norm than it should be in some scenarios. So, but I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to interject.
No, yeah, I'm glad you elaborated.
Just seeing it firsthand. But is again, and like going back to where you're behind the table, people making that assumption that, oh, she doesn't know, she's just watching the table, so and so gets back, and you can't do that. You can't do that. Even if it was the case, you still can't do it. It doesn't make it right. And so, but go ahead. I mean, I just wanted to sort of interject, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying all that because, you know, and even, you know, you saying, you felt comfortable, you know, talking to this person, you know, and saying like, why would you treat somebody that way? You know, it, it's hard. It is hard. You know, and I know a lot of people don't want to talk about this and they don't want to have this conversation, but it, you know, a lot of people talk about 10xing the hobby. I know that's kind of a massive slogan for, you know, some corporations and stuff. You can't 10x it if you are trying to close people out. If you are trying to say you don't fit the mold. And I think, you know, you make a very good point too. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's just the wife, the girlfriend, whatever. I can hold space for both things. I can be a collector and I can be a spouse. I can, you know, I can be two things at once, and that seems to confound some people with that, whether they realize that or not. You know, I might not know everything. You know, sometimes my husband has really high end cards, and I don't know the details of the price, but like, you know,
Here's the other thing, and this will be a shorter interruption. No one. Here's the thing. No one knows everything, Lauren.
Right,
So it's
exactly.
not a male. I don't know
Right.
everything. It's not a male. It's not men know everything and women don't. It's we can say that about every dealer, every person in the hobby. So
Yeah.
you know we've got to stop like looking at someone at face value and then making all these assumptions. And no one knows everything. So it's
Right.
it just becomes like, how much do you know? But you
Right.
know, and I learn something every day. And this is 44 years into the hobby, right? So yeah, but go ahead. I just wanted, when I hear you say, well, we don't know. Again, that's again a stereotype that we got
Yeah.
to get away from.
You're right though, like, you know, but that not everybody knows everything, but the bar is definitely, and I'm not saying in contrast to what you're saying. I understand what, I don't want you to think I'm being in opposition to what you're saying. Just to add on to it, you know, the bar is higher for some of us. And you know, me having to text my husband on something because he didn't mark the price or whatever. Not always, but sometimes people are like, I'll just come back. And then they're, you know, and you know, that's not, more than anything, that makes me feel like a hindrance to, you know, my husband's operation there. And that's not what it is, and that's not fair for me to put that kind of pressure on myself. I don't really remember where I was going, but yeah, I don't, I mean, I don't know how many, I don't know how many times I could probably text any of my, you know, female friends right now and say, has anybody ever challenged you when you were talking about something, Instagram or in person or what have you? And I would probably say maybe like 9 out of 10 times, the probably the top of mind response would be, oh yeah, they asked me to name like 5 players from that team, or name their statistics, you know, the statistics of that particular. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to join into a conversation, mostly online, you know, in the comment section or whatever, and the comments that come up underneath it are, you know, name 5 players from whatever, name their scoring average from the last 5 years.
They're giving you a test when there's no test
Yeah,
that
not
needs to be
necessary.
administered. Yeah.
Yeah, like if my husband has an opinion on an athlete, nobody's asking him like, okay, well, what was, you know, what was the shooting average in, you know, 1994? Like,
Yeah, and
also, I
that's
don't care
another.
about that information.
I've seen that. I've seen that too.
Yeah,
I've seen that in the hobby, Lauren. I've seen that. You know, speaking of
everywhere.
fantasy
Yeah,
leagues, I play in baseball and football fantasy leagues, and we had a female person, you know, a lady in our fantasy football league. Now I didn't know her. I just met her at the draft. But there were a couple, and I didn't do it, but there were a couple other guys in that league that, much like you just said, hey, you know, kind of quizzed her, like sort of to justify her being in the same room.
yeah,
And, you know, I think I even said, like, knock it off, guys. Let's get the draft going. Or, like,
right,
you know, I did it, and I said, listen, you know, we're all paying $125 to enter in the league. Let's, you know, sort of like threw water on the fire, like to put it
right,
in that sort of way. instead of making it a bigger deal. And I think it worked because then we got going. But like I felt bad. It was almost like she had to like earn her way in, and that again an unnecessary test. There is no test, right?
Right.
If she
Exactly.
doesn't know, right? That's her $125 in this case.
Right.
She wants to play and enjoy it. That's her business. We don't have to quiz or test anybody.
Right.
So I see it's not even just again in the hobby. That's a fantasy league
Right.
story, but I know that happens, Abby, because again I've seen it on that level too. Let me ask you this, kind of, and then we'll get into your writing. But has it improved, and are we moving? Are the improvements moving fast enough, or in your opinion, are we getting better? At the right pace, or not necessarily.
I think it's hard to say. It's hard to generalize that. I'll say for me, I'll be honest. I've never been a big like blocker for accounts, like blocking people. But if I have found that if I see something like that I deem unacceptable, I'll just go ahead and use that word, unacceptable from my experience. I will probably just go ahead and we don't have to have ever interacted. I could just see your comment and just gut sense, I don't want this part of my experience. And that's not with everything, but with the hobby, in order for me to not get burnt out on it, and to enjoy it, I have to curate my experience. And I don't want to speak for, all women, all my friends, all minorities, like, across the board. I think in some ways we've gotten better. I think in some ways it's been more overt or more covert. It just kind of depends. I think I don't know. I'll just say I
Yeah,
want to think we're
it's
going in
hard
the right
because
direction.
you can't. You don't want, like my line. I always say, you don't want to paint with a broad brush,
Yes, yeah.
and it's not. Listen, I think we both will agree on this much, right? It's never going to be
Right, it's not gonna
not
be a
there.
utopia.
It's
It's
not
not
going to
gonna
be
be
not.
all like roses every day, but I'm
Yeah,
here and I'm happy, and I wouldn't be if I wasn't. I guess I'll just say that.
yeah.
Now, is it the same level of happiness every day and in every interaction and experience? Probably not, but like overall, I still derive joy from being a part of this community, from collecting, from whatever aspect that I take in from my experience. I think that, with people like you who are saying, not necessarily that this is a priority, but that this is something I'm willing to act on, and to divert somebody else's discomfort into my own, so that I can maybe prevent it in the future, because that's what you're doing with these interactions. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think for a lot of men, it is hard to stand up to your friends. And I know you don't want to, destroy relationships because it can impact your collecting down the line.
But I don't think you're wrong. For me, just speaking for myself, if that conversation ruins a friendship or an acquaintance, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably didn't. What kind of friend did I? Hate to say it
Right.
like this, but what kind of friend did I really like? I don't, because
Exactly.
it doesn't align with how I was raised and what I believe in. So, and I'm not saying you have to, all your friends, you have to agree with everything they say. That's
Right.
not
But like
possible either.
basic
But
human,
there's yeah, yeah,
kindness,
yeah,
decency. I think
yeah.
that that's
So
a pretty,
if I lose a friend or even a listener on the podcast because I stick up for somebody who deserves to be stuck it up for,
yeah.
then so be it. I'll when my head hits the pillow that day, I'll sleep just fine, and hopefully wake up just fine
Exactly. Right.
as well too. So that's never been for me. And maybe it's easier for me than for some others. I again can't paint with that same bar, but for me, just the way I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandfather died when I was 12, and so my grandma was still around for years after that. For all intents and purposes, she was my mom. So, and a very strong female presence. So that's never going to be an issue with me. And even further than that, I have no problem, going to bat, if you will, to try to prevent some of that stuff we see. And like I said, if I lose a friend, an acquaintance, or a listener because of that stance, then it is what it is. I'm okay with that. Like that's I'd be not okay if I didn't do anything, and think, well, my grandma would be very disappointed in me for not doing. Then I would have trouble sleeping at night. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So we'll kind of well, hopefully the strides continue to get made. I will do what I can do when the opportunity presents itself, and I think it's important. And hopefully, and I think you make a great point too, Lauren, where like there's nothing wrong with like either not accepting someone's friend request or deleting someone if it's ruining your hobby enjoyment, right? That's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to apologize for that, and I don't want you to go nowhere. And so if that's at the sacrifice of someone who maybe doesn't have great morals to begin with, then it is what it is. And so whatever you got to do, right?
Exactly. Whatever gets you through the day, I support you.
Yep, exactly.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Hobby News Daily is your homepage of the hobby, providing original writing, exclusive gem rate data, a daily morning minute podcast, and some of the best content creators in the hobby. Remember, hobbynewsdaily.com and at Hobby News Daily on social. Happy collecting!
Hi, I'm Isaac Alpert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies, and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
All right, so kind of coming down the home stretch here, we both happen to write for Sports Illustrated Collect and Hobby News Daily.
Yeah.
And you do great work, and we can plug, kind of direct people where at the end here. But is writing something you've always done, or is it something you've sort of honed your skill? Like where does writing fit in for you?
I've always been interested in reading and writing since I was a little kid. It's just kind of always been probably like with the needlepoint, like it's just kind of an innate I just to kind of like facilitate this conversation. When I was a kid, I had something wrong with my foot, and I couldn't play a lot of sports, and I was little. I was like 6 or 7. So I did a lot of like more stationary things. And so, I wasn't ever gonna be an athlete, but I liked sports and I appreciated it. And but I did a lot of quiet things like reading and writing and stuff. And I got my degree in English in college, and so I kind of, I've always had like writing's always been kind of one of the things that I feel that I'm very I am just very good at. I just to put it plainly, it's one of the things that I can not always, some of my articles probably aren't perfect, like they're probably not a great read, but it's one of the things that I feel like comes to me pretty naturally. And and so, when Danny with Hobby News Daily, he asked me if I wanted to write, I think I think it was December, because I was going to start in January, so it's been almost a year. He asked me if I, would like to, and if, I thought I had anything to say, and I was like, I don't really know, but this is really cool, and I'd like to be a part of it, so I'll figure it out once a month, I can definitely figure it out. So yeah, so I've been able to kind of, merge my passions and the things I enjoy, and also again built a good community. I've gotten to know more about you, and like Adam Palmer, and then Kayla, we got to connect even more on that. And Danny is incredible. I'm, like very glad that I have like a direct line now to him, and that um, it's really great. And then when he asked me to do Sports Illustrated a little over a month ago, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, it's once again just kind of everything working together towards a certain point.
And you do a great job, and you're far more trained than I am, being like you said, an English major. I'm lucky I can speak it sometimes, let alone write it. And it's funny hearing you say like you write something and like, is it good, or I don't know. I think all writers, if you will, sort of go through that. And there's sometimes like, I'll write something and I'll like, I don't think that's very good, and it'll get good feedback. And then
Yeah.
that's a two-way street now too. There's sometimes I think like, man, I like that.
Right.
We all read ours, like after we write it, we read it to ourselves, right? Oh, I like that, and like maybe we like it more than certain other people do, if you will. So that's a double-edged sword, right? And I think that's that comes with the territory. I think for me too, writing is just another outlet. I wrote for Tough Stuff way back in the day. For those that remember the hobby magazine Tough Stuff. And again, I'm not classically trained. I'm more self-taught, and I hope I've gotten better the more I do it. I'm
You're
more
very
of
good. I'll just go ahead and say
yeah,
that. You're very
I speak from experience. Like I just share my experience. I'll
Yeah.
also share my opinions, and sometimes people agree with them, sometimes people don't. That's the beauty. No one ever says, I wonder what John feels about that, because it's pretty
I do.
apparent.
I
Yeah.
do. I'm like, I can't wait to hear his his
Yeah, I'm
thoughts.
not shy to I've had people say, listen, I don't agree with everything you say, John, but I really appreciate you because
Yeah.
you don't mince words.
Yes.
And and that's just another way. I'll hats off to my grandparents for kind of instilling that, to express yourself, and obviously do it the right way, and don't be a jerk about it. But
Right.
um, you know, but I am opinionated, but you got this tact in that as well, right? It's easy to say top stinks or panini sucks. There's ways to do the same thing without using why is that? What can and
Right.
but also what role do it's easy for us as hobbyists and collectors to say that, but what can we do proactively to make that better or get
Yeah.
them to act? So
Exactly.
that's
So
kind
that's
of
what you
that's
do.
yeah,
That's how
that's the
you
space.
express. You have thoughts, but then you also are like, yeah, but I'm going to back it up and say what I think might help the situation. And
Yeah.
you're very good at articulating that.
Yeah, and it may fall on deaf ears, and
Yeah.
that is what it is. But that's how I try to be. Very few people will read anything I write or hear a podcast episode, and man, he beats around the bush. That's not a
Right.
line someone will say with me, and that's on purpose, right? But I also try to be respectful and use tag. And I've had people on this very show, Lauren, and that were sort of in the limelight, maybe for not great things, and I have to ask tough questions too. But I do it in a respectful manner, and
You
I
do.
have had
Yes.
so and say, hey, I don't agree with that, or I've had someone from grading like upcharges are a money grab. I don't like them. I know,
Same. Yeah.
well, here's why we do it, John. Whether you agree with our explanation or not, this is why. And I still say, no, I hear you, and I respect you, but I still don't like it. You didn't change my mind on
Right.
that particular
Yeah.
issue. And that's the that's the way it should be, right? And
Mhm.
we can still be friends. We don't
Yes,
have to
yeah.
agree across the board. We're obviously in an election year. We just had the election take place, and it always amazed me how much animosity and vitriol is involved. And I get it. We all want the folks we like to win, but at the end of the day, I mean, in the United States, right? No matter who wins, right? We're all should be waving that same flag
Yeah.
at the end. And I don't think that always works that way or happens that way, but and in the hobby too, right? Like so many times you have to take like there's a line drawn. What side are you on? And I
Right.
agree. The side might be the opinion, but we're still in the same fraternity of
Yes.
being the hobby. And I think I wish more people sort of thought along those lines, and I think we'd get along. The hobby would be even fun. The hobby is fun, but it'd be
Mhm.
even funner if we had a little bit more of that sort of sentiment rather than sometimes when we don't. All right, I don't ask this to every guest, but I do sometimes. I'm going to give it to you, Lauren. I call it my hobby magic wand. Obviously, unfortunately, it's not a real thing. I'm trying to invent it, but not coming up good in the lab. But it's a magic wand, like we traditionally know magic wands. But you get one wish, and it has to be hobby related. And you can do whatever you want. You only get one. You can't use one wish and say I want 3 wishes now.
Okay, right.
That's the only
No
rule.
workarounds here.
But yeah, but you can get rid of anything. You could say, hey, I want this Grail card. Whatever you want to use it for, that's the beauty of it. What are you using your hobby magic wand?
The knee jerk reaction was Christina's PC from Card Ladder. The neon green prism, fast
I
break
know.
disco. I need her to get that card so badly, and that is what I would use my magic wand on, is to pull that card out of wherever they're hiding and let her complete that rainbow. It's time. It has to happen for all of us. It's a hobby wide accomplishment when that card surfaces.
Well, we're chuckling. I chuckled. You chuckled. But in all seriousness, I think that speaks volumes to the kind of person you are, Lauren, to use your wish to help someone else out, right? I don't know if I would have did that. I don't ask myself normally on the show, but I don't know if I would have done that. And so kudos to you. That speaks again to you, to your personality and who you are, that you're basically using your wish to make someone else's day, if you will. And
I'm very passionate about her
yeah,
finding my
yeah, and hopefully, we're not, unfortunately, the hobby magic wand's not really real, but
right.
hopefully that mission gets completed nonetheless as well. I had a mine recently, and I know she threw that out there.
Yep.
Hopefully that happens. I agree, but that's very unselfish of you, and kudos for saying that and being that way. And again, speaks volumes to who you are, and which is awesome. So, with that being said, I always give the guests sort of the final word, where people can see what you're doing, whether it be the articles you're writing, the cards you're creating, day in the life, whatever, social media, no time limit. Put that stuff out there, and that way people can see all the great stuff you do.
Okay. I'm on Instagram. Pretty much that's the only place I'm at, social media wise. Lauren Goes Here. And I am a writer for Collectibles on SI, and I'm really enjoying that. And there's a lot of really good writers there. So even if you don't want to read what I write, highly recommend going there and checking it out. And then also Hobby News Daily. I write an article once a month, but it's in the name, Hobby News Daily. Danny has a great collective of people contributing. It's a great website. There's a lot of different perspectives on a lot of different topics. And so those are the 3 places. And even if you don't want to hear what I'm up to or see what I'm up to, definitely check out Collectibles on SI and Hobby News Daily.
Yeah, one thing I'll throw in there too, both obviously great sites. Different styles of writing, different types of articles. So it's not one size fits all. You can go to both sides and see all sorts of different. It's not like they're the same articles on each one, and they're not. And
they're not. Nope.
And they're not designed to be. That's done. That's the way they're set up. So check both of those sites out. Lauren's doing tremendous with her writing on both of those sites, and you can learn some stuff along with me as well. So Lauren, awesome finally having you on. But again, better late than never. Keep up the great work, and we'll have you back. And we won't make you wait this. We won't make you wait this long.
I wait forever. This was fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Man, Lauren's such a bright light in the hobby. Glad to get to know her a little bit better, and just a great person. And again, wanted to have her on sooner, but better late than never. And we'll have her back on again if she'll come back on. So check out what she does. Check out her writing, which is excellent, to say the very least. And loves the hobby, collects, and wears many hats, and wears them all very well.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Hey, it's Chris Carlin, formerly from Upper Deck, now with Collectors. Remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
That's a wrap for this week. Huge thanks to you, the listeners out there, because without you, there is no us. If you like the show, we truly appreciate positive reviews. Big ups to our great guests who drive the show and our awesome sponsors who make it all possible. Sports Card Nation will be back next week, but don't forget to catch either Hobby Quick Hits or Card Mentions coming up on Monday. I'll leave you with this. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Remember, the hobby is the people.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.